And there's the river. Right now, the conditions are perfect for walking cross country. There's a thin layer of snow, but it's really hard-packed snow. So that makes it so that we can walk anywhere pretty easily. I'm talking to the people on YouTube. Anyway, so we're taking this opportunity to take a shortcut to an old abandoned homestead that's, I don't know, usually a bit of a walk from our house, but today it won't be so much of a walk.
Did you pass the place where we go down to the house?
Yeah, that's to our left, where we usually get the firewood.
You passed it?
We're on the main trail now. Big shortcut. We saved a lot of time. The snow is still thin and hard-packed. Easy walking. You can see the moose tracks. They only go a few inches in. Not bad for a big heavy beast like that. Here's our first artifact.
Ooh, this way?
An old pickup truck. So here is an old pot. And here is this old truck. And of course, this being rural Alaska, it's full of bullet holes. And of course, inside we have an empty can of PBR. The steering wheel is gone. You can see the old gauge here. And in the back of the seat is still intact. But the bottom is not. It was a flat bed and it had these boards across it. I'm sure most of them have rotted out by now. I also wanted to have a look at the tires here. They're not exactly aggressive winter tires. What's really impressive about this truck being here is that when this homestead was settled, there weren't really any roads. Like there were trails, and there might have been an old bridge that was barely the width of the truck to get it across the river. Now that looks like a headlight and fender from some unidentified vehicle. And here we have, well, what would have been the dashboard and motor for yet another unidentified vehicle. Maybe if there weren't snow on the ground right now, I'd have a better idea of what it is. But I'll just call this relic number 2. And I'm guessing that this fender and headlight I was just looking at are from the same vehicle I'm standing next to. Okay, and then here's a small structure. There's an old wheel. This must have been a shed. It's about shed size. Look at the size of those nails. Like, you know, almost good for railroad ties. We've got a old barrel here. Or is that a bucket? I don't know. Bucket barrel. Yeah, some kind of a shed out in the distance there. Looks like another fender to another vehicle. There's an old bumper. This looks like it's actually part of that one we were just looking at a minute ago. This might be the cab of it. Let's have a look here.
What's that?
That's the springs from the seat that was in the cab here. And it's pretty much just empty. Let us keep on moving. I mean, this is just amazing to see.
There's nothing here. It looks old and rusted out, though.
Yeah, everything here is old and rusted out.
Scrap metal.
But that this was here. What's cool is that all this stuff is here, and the trees have grown up around it. Yeah. Yeah, there's a bit of a structure here, but yeah, here we have the other door from that vehicle. It's interesting that these doors are separated and far from the pieces of the vehicle, but somebody was using it for target practice. And here we're coming up on the main home site, which is right over here. This was their wood cook stove. Serial number if somebody wants to look it up, maybe. 313D2. There's the firebox and the oven. Years ago, when we first explored this place, we thought maybe we should try to haul that thing back home and refurbish it and use it. But it's in no shape for that. But down here, it's hard to tell because the snow has fallen. But this is a sunken pit, and you see all this wood in here. This was the cabin site. And there's a... Yeah,
there's no cabin here.
Well, that's because they... Yeah, it's under the snow, and it was a big pit. And it all kind of fell into the pit, so they must have had some kind of basement that everything fell into. So, we're going to have to come back in the spring to get a better look at that, but there's still more to see today. What do you think it is?
I think it's the frame of an old mattress.
The frame of an old mattress, huh? Yeah? That seems reasonable to me. Or maybe a couch. It's got the frame. I don't know. This could have been the interior to one of those vehicles. Like a bench seat. There's still paint on this bicycle frame. An old barrel. Over there, some old tires. There's a couple of free children. Free-range children, I should call them. But if we go down here, there's a little structure here that I think might have been for water catchment, because I believe we're right above the river here. And I think that there is a spring that maybe comes out of here, or used to come out of this hillside. And I think that this is where they came to get water for the homestead, which is just right there.
The spring comes out.
Where
You
does
have to go down the hill.
Oh, she says she sees where the spring comes out, and we got to go down the hill. I see it now too. Oh yeah. And it flows on down to the river. There's more, it's kind of a springy hillside. And there's the river. Just stay away from the ice, alright? The river is not frozen thick yet.
What type of zombie? Like when you get really, really cold and you get sick.
Yeah, you don't want to get hypothermia, so stay away from the edge. And we're going to go back up the hill, actually.
We don't have time to follow the river all the way back to where we go.
Alright, let's head back up the hill. So pull up a chair. I'm going to pull up this chair. And we'll talk about the story of this homestead. So we used to come down here and explore every now and then, and we started to wonder about who lived here, and I went through old property records, and I couldn't find out because it went back to before statehood. But we do know a guy who lived just across the river back in the late 1950s, and he's actually lived there ever since. He's a homesteader himself. And he said that when he was a kid, he used to go to school with the kids that lived here, maybe at least part of the time, because we've actually found old homeschool books here amongst the rubble. But that he remembered those kids and he gave us their names. And he even said that there was one time that they used to keep cattle down here. All these woods around us are very, very young. Back when they lived here, this was all cleared, and they kept cattle down here, and they used to, and that was kind of their homestead business. But our neighbor across the river was telling us that there was a time that he was trying to help them get across a swollen river down there with some horses, and that it was a very scary event, and he hasn't ever wanted to ride a horse since then. Because we do talk about horses with him, because we do have horses. But so it was great to get some background info on the family that lived here. There were a couple of boys, and they were here in the late 50s, early 60s. I don't know when they left, but one of them did write a book about it that we bought and read, and it wasn't that good, but but it was informative. And the way they describe it is that they described it as that there were millions of spruce grouse living in these woods at the time, or at least the woods that weren't cleared, and all kinds of other stuff. But it's probably our coolest local site of interest in the neighborhood. There's some other old homestead cabins that we'll explore at a later date, and we're going to come back to this one as well and explore it some more on a later date, maybe when there's not so much snow on the ground. But yeah, that's probably enough for this video. Stay tuned for part 2 in the springtime, whenever that happens to come.